when you're getting into conventions, like, what was your first convention? Like, what was the first convention that you attended?
My first convention ever, San Diego Comic-Con 1998.
Whoa,
Yeah,
yo, that's
so
dope.
that was my very first convention. I didn't know what cosplay was. I was just there with my cousins. I was a big X-Men fan back then, mainly because of like the 90s television show with the really dope intro.
Yeah, oh yeah, dude,
Yeah, so I was really into X-Men. I was into comic books. I didn't have enough to buy my own comic books, but my cousin was like, hey, there's like huge boxes and bins full of comics, so if you want to like buy some stuff, you go. So I went with him. We went to San Diego, and that was my very first one. If you want to talk about like the first time I got into like cosplay and the actual like convention scene, that would be Anime Expo 2003. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Because like there was this weird there was this transition for San Diego Comic Con where it was like a comic book convention, and then it turned into Blockbuster Con like around like 2007. You know. So like how is that vibe in 1998 for like I feel like it's a different dynamic back then, right?
Oh yeah. It was people who are watching this are probably into like cosplay and a lot younger, so they see whenever they go to these conventions, it's always like movie and television and stuff. But if they've ever been to a smaller convention, and when I say smaller, I'm talking about like tabletop gaming convention or something that's a little that doesn't deal with like any crazy movie or television shows or whatever. If you go to those conventions, that's what San Diego Comic-Con used to be. There was no huge stages. There were no huge billboards. Buses didn't like that's whatever that's Ocean Boulevard, I think that's what it's called. It wasn't packed. Like you could actually just drive down, drop somebody off like right in front of the convention center, and then like it wasn't anything it's nothing like that. So it's bizarre how crazy it got.
It's totally different from like how Comic-Con is now, like San Diego Comic-Con, because like they block off like 9 blocks of street in front of the convention center, and like it's like it turns into like a nerd mecca. Back in the day it was just like like being a nerd was like still stigmatized, so like it wasn't like as widely accepted as it is now. But going back to like 2003 Anime Expo, like I know you're more on the comic book side, but like why Anime Expo 2003?
Actually, surprisingly, I guess I would be an even mix of like comics and anime, because I started off with anime. When my parents split, I moved in with my cousins, and they were super into video games and comic books. And then after like my mom found her own place and we moved out from my cousins, then I got back into anime. So it's like a big mix, because as an American, we get whatever we get on TV, and anime wasn't so prevalent then. On television. And when my dad was still around, he would get stuff from Asia, Philippines, or wherever he's working. He would bring these VHS tapes, and I would watch like Dragon Ball and stuff. And then when I got to my cousin's place, they're like super Americanized. So I used to watch like Johnny Quest and Ren and Stimpy, Doug, Nickelodeon and stuff. And then when I came back, I found out more about anime. I'm actually a mix of both, and I think nowadays I'm more into anime because it's so hard to like comic books. Stories last decades upon decades upon decades, and like Superman is almost a century old, right? I think, right? So he's almost an entire century old. So like if you were to look at and there's always like time traveling, and there's always like separate dimensions and like retcons and all these things, and it's so hard to just follow a concise story from A to B. And anime, as stupid as some of the newest anime is, unless so like it's all fan service nowadays, whatever, but like there are those like gems that you will find, there'll be a concise story, like 12 episodes or like something that's like a couple of volumes long, and it's like the storytelling and stuff, it's amazing. And it's really hard to find that in like a modern day comic, at least in the superhero genre. But you could still find like independent like graphic novels that are also masterfully written. Before, like this happens in every interview, but I have like a mild case of ADD, and I'll start like my mind will start. You'll ask me a question, and I'll try to answer it, and then I'll start veering off and start talking about something completely different. So what was your question? Like, why did I choose Anime Expo?
Anime Expo 2003? But don't worry, like I'm peering into your mind, seeing how you tick, man. So it's totally fine.
No, so basically, I went to Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con as on a whim. My cousin was like, "Hey, let's go," and I'm like, "Sure, let's go." And Anime Expo, I was always into at that time. I was already into really into getting into anime, like all the Haruhi Suzumiya, like super weeby stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then one of my friends, he was a good friend of mine. He goes, his name is Steven. He was like, "Hey, there's this huge anime event over in Anaheim. Do you want to go?" And I was like, sure, let's do it. And then we were talking about it for a couple of days, and because apparently someone he knew went to the Anime Expo the year before, and so he found pictures, and he was like showing me pictures, and I was like, yo, people are like all dressing up and stuff. Isn't this like a thing they do in Japan? And I was like, yeah, like you want to dress up? And so we had like 2 weeks left, and so 2 or 3 weeks, and so we started like taking this cosplay thing, like, oh, we'll try to go as a group. It wasn't so much like I chose Anime Expo because I like anime or whatever. It was more like the opportunity just kind of like fell on my lap because I didn't even know about Anime Expo. I didn't see any billboards or anything. Apparently it wasn't as advertised as it is now. Like when it's already June, you start seeing stuff like on the what do you call it, on the street lamps, right?
Yeah.
And you see like billboards, Anime Expo on buses and stuff. And back then, you just have to be online and like somehow be in like the forums. Yeah, my friend was just like, "Yo, there's this thing. We should check it out." And then so we went. And yeah, that's how I started. I went to Anime Expo, and that was my first like foot into like the cosplay thing.
I was more of a late bloomer because like back in like the mid 2000s, it was cosplay was like really stigmatized, where like the temperature was, if you see me cosplay, kill me. Like that was like like the only people that cosplayed were like Trekkies and like people that lived in their mom's basements. And like it wasn't until like the 2010s was when like people were like, dude, cosplay, let's go dress up. One of the what was the cosplay? What group what series did you cosplay from?
I cosplay from Bleach.
Nice.
So I've said this story so many times. Whenever somebody asks me about my first time cosplaying, I always say this story. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'll try to Cliff Notes version of it. But basically, so we wanted to be, Bleach was the biggest, it was huge at the time. So me and my friends were like, oh, do a Bleach thing. And I'm the kind of personality where like I want to always be like in the front, or like I want to be the leader. I want to be that kind of guy. I want to be in charge. And so I was like, I want to be Ichigo. You know, Ichigo is cool and whatever. And so at the time I had a buzz cut, so I was like basically bald. And I'll get to the buzz cut thing later. But I was like, I want to be Ichigo. And then you could be Rukia, you could be Chad and whatever. And we're like, you're tall. And you're Hispanic, you'll be Chad. You're short and tiny, you'll be Rukia. So like everyone matched each character, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't look so much like Ichigo, but like there was no other person. I could be Renji or whatever. But I was like, I want to be Ichigo. So like, sure. I was excited to dress up, but I didn't really take like getting into the costume and getting the costume together as seriously as everyone else. And and my cousin just graduated high school, and his gown was black. So I didn't make anything really. I just I borrowed his high school graduation gown for the robe. for the white belts, I literally got a white towel and I cut it in a small strip, and I just used like my grandma's like flip flops for the shoes and whatever. And for the sword, I didn't even bother like thinking of like getting Sengetsu or making it or whatever. All I did, I went to Chinatown. And I spent $2 on this plastic sword. It was literally as big as like my forearm. It was like tiny. It was like that big.
Yeah.
And that was my Zangetsu. Imagine, right? So Zangetsu is supposed to be this huge cleaver, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about wigs. Wigs were hard to come by, right?
Seriously.
And if you were to even find one, there was no like Arta wigs. There's nothing, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to like literally go to like a hair place and just get like an expensive wig, or if you had hair, spray paint it or something. There was no, it wasn't a thing before. And so we all meet up. And everyone looks great. One of my dudes made his like Quincy arrow. Like everyone was so dope, right? Yeah. And here I come. I'm supposed to be Ichigo, right? First of all, like my costume, the costume itself was like, it looked all right. From far, it looked pretty dope. From close, you could see like it's a towel and whatever, but it looked all right. But then my sword, right? It's a little knife, and then my hair. I'm bald, right? They're like, I don't look like Ichigo. I look like the first dude that they bump into. He's like some bald guy. It was like an episode like 12 or something. It's like some random nobody Shinigami. I didn't look like Ichigo at all. I didn't look like anybody.
Oh, so you just rocked the buzz cut? And
and people were just like, so, I know this group is from Bleach, but like, yo, who are you? And I'm like, I'm Ichigo, and they're like, that was like the two things you know about Ichigo, right?
Yeah.
Is the hair? It's the bright orange hair and that big ass sword. I had neither.
Yeah.
So it was basically me coming up, and if I wore like a Dragon Ball Z gi, and I'm rocking like Krillin's haircut, but I call myself Goku, right? That's how it was. And then this is where the story gets sad. So everyone's my friend, so they're like, all right, whatever, right? But it wasn't until we went to the artist alley, and I was like, oh, artist alley, this is so cool. And I was looking at all the stuff, and then they find a dude, some tall, like chiseled jaw, like orange. I think it's like naturally like he was like a redhead. And he had this. It wasn't perfect, but he had Zangetsu. He had the sword, and so they started taking pictures with him. And literally, no shit. Like, can I curse?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You can curse,
Like no shit. Like I was like looking at some stuff. I was buying some like commission whatever, and I turned around and my friends were gone.
Yeah.
They left me for another Ichigo. And to top that off, the next day, I was like, whatever, they're probably having fun. It was cool, I made some friends. So that night, I was waiting for pictures. But the next morning, I was at school, and I was in like my computer lab class or whatever. I went on MySpace. And I went on MySpace, and then I saw that all the pictures they took of me, they cropped me out.
Oh!
Yeah. Because I didn't look that good. And so you could see my hands, or like some of my... Because I was at the end of the pictures, but then I was cropped in each one, so I wasn't there. But they did post up pictures with the Ichigo, but I wasn't in any of them. So, but yeah, so that's my little story. That was my first. Yeah, so we were Bleach characters, and they were dicks. they were jerks, man.
Ready?